Speaking to you tonight from the Oval Office. Before I begin, let me speak to important news from earlier today. After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, my administration, by my administration, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas, the elements of which I laid out in great detail in May of this year. This plan was developed and negotiated by my team and will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans. This will be my final address to you from the American people from the Oval Office, from this desk as president. And I've been thinking a lot about who we are and maybe more importantly, who we should be. Long ago in New York Harbor, an iron worker installed beam after beam, day after day. He was joined by steel workers, stonemasons, engineers. They built not just a single structure, but a beacon of freedom. The very idea of America was so big, we felt the entire world needed to see. The Statue of Liberty, a gift from France after our Civil War. Like the very idea of America, it was built not by one person, but by many people from every background and from around the world. Like America, the Statue of Liberty is not standing still. Her foot literally steps forward atop a broken chain of human bondage. She's on the march, and she literally moves. She was built to sway back and forth to withstand the fury of stormy weather, to stand the test of time because storms are always coming. She sways a few inches, but she never falls into the current below. An engineering marvel. The Statue of Liberty is also an enduring symbol of the soul of our nation. A soul shaped by forces that bring us together and by forces that pull us apart. And yet through good times and tough times, we've withstood it all. A nation of pioneers and explorers, of dreamers and doers, of ancestors native to this land, of ancestors who came by force, a nation of immigrants who came to build a better life, a nation holding the torch of the most powerful idea ever in the history of the world, that all of us are created equal, that all of us deserve to be treated with dignity, justice, and fairness, that democracy must defend and be defined and be imposed, moved in every way possible. Our rights, our freedoms, our dreams. But we know the idea of America, our institution, our people, our values that uphold it are constantly being tested. Ongoing debates about power and the exercise of power, but whether we lead by the example of our power or the power of our example.
So this is President Biden's farewell address to America, because you guys know we're moving on. They all what's that saying? All good things must come, or all things must come, whatever that saying, come to an end. But with that being said, if you listen to the start of his speech, he wanted to ensure that we knew the one thing that him and his team did. So just remember that it's one thing that we can, if it's true, it's the one thing that we could say that, it's ceasefire, Hamas, and things of that nature. And it sounds like a lot of his farewell is going to be about DEI. Sounds like he's talking about a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Even though he's using the Statue of Liberty, he's telling us fellow Americans, go through the storms, wade through the storms. We did. We waded through a lot of them in these past 4 years, and I think we actually fell below the current. But that's just my opinion. So let's see. We're not going to watch the whole 17 minutes. I'm going to just kind of let you guys see some of the highlights of what he said.
Whether we show the courage to stand up to the abuse of power or we yield to it. After 50 years at the center of all of this, I know that believing in the idea of America means respecting the institutions that govern a free society, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, a free and independent press, institutions that are rooted, they just might not reflect the timeless words, but they echo the words of the Declaration of Independence. We hold
What do they do, Biden? I think I missed that part. You stuttered a little. I guess it's not important.
these truths to be self-evident, rooted in the timeless words of the Constitution. We, the people, our system of separation of powers, checks and balances. It may not be perfect, but it's maintained our democracy for nearly 250 years, longer than any other nation in history that's ever tried such a bold experiment. In the past 4 years, our democracy has held strong. And every day I've kept my commitment to be president for all Americans through one of the toughest periods in our nation's history. I've had a great partner in Vice President Kamala Harris. It's been the honor of my life to see the resilience of essential workers getting us through a once-in-a-century pandemic, the heroism of service members and first responders keeping us safe, the determination of advocates standing up for our rights and our freedoms instead of losing their jobs to an economic crisis that we inherited. Millions of Americans now have the dignity of work. Millions of entrepreneurs and companies creating new businesses and industries, hiring American workers, using American products. And together, we've launched a new era of American possibilities. One of the greatest modern.
Where? What are we producing in America? Again, you guys are always welcome to your comments. Please let me know if you know what he's talking about. I'm not sure where American jobs were coming in. I think sometimes people don't really understand the unemployment rates and things of that nature. Some of the numbers they look at kind of flaw numbers. So just pay attention to that.
Modernizations of infrastructure in our entire history, from new roads, bridges, clean water, affordable high-speed internet for every American. We invented the semiconductor, smaller than the tip of my little finger, and now is bringing those chip factories and those jobs back to America where they belong, creating thousands of jobs. Finally, giving Medicare the power to negotiate lower prescription drug prices for millions of seniors. And finally, doing something to protect our children and our families by passing the most significant gun safety law in 30 years and bringing violent crime to a 50-year low.
Now, anybody been following the crime? It's not going down. You guys need to go look up what the definition of like deadly crimes and things of that nature. Because sometimes, arson, theft, all this stuff is still crime. Those smash and grabs, they weren't falling into that category until these laws were passed, just being passed by certain areas like California, things of that nature. So just remember that those smash and grabs didn't fall into that category of major crimes until the Prop 36 passed or whatever that. I think that's 36. But
meeting our sacred obligation to over 1 million veterans so far who are exposed to toxic materials, and to their families, providing medical care and education benefits and more for their families. It will take time to feel the full impact of all we've done together. But the seeds are planted, and they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come. At home, we've created nearly 17 million new jobs, more than any other single administration, a single term. More people have health care than ever before.
which one?
And overseas, we've strengthened NATO. Ukraine is still free. And we pulled ahead of our competition with China and so much more. I'm so proud of how much we've accomplished together for the American people. And I wish the incoming administration success because I want America to succeed. That's why I've upheld my duty to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition of power, to ensure we lead by the power of our example, I have no doubt that America is in a position to continue to succeed. That's why my farewell address tonight.
Don't miss that part, guys. See, for those of you who don't know, served in the military for 20 years. I actually got to Washington, D.C. a day before the pandemic started. We did a lot of details for good old Biden and President Trump, and we got to see a lot. And without disclosing too much, I just want you guys to know that this is all friends in love and war. They all get along. If you would have just heard, if you really truly pay attention to his last line, he said, and I still feel that we're in good hands. I mean, it's Donald Trump. It's good hands. Let me play it back so y'all can hear it.
I have held my duty to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition of power, to ensure we lead by the power of our example. I have no doubt that America is in a position to continue to succeed. That's why my farewell address tonight, I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. And this is a dangerous and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. And the dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence.
You guys know that President Biden and his family falls under that extreme wealth and wealthy people. So don't get it twisted. Everybody who ever served as a president falls under that category of the rich and wealthy. They're not hurting. They're going to have presidential security for the rest of their lives. A lot of our budget is going to them. Be very careful with how people use their words. Then he said he had he knew exactly that we're going to be in good hands. And then now he goes to bash the same people that he said would leave us in good hands.
That literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before, more than a century ago. But the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts. They didn't punish the wealthy, just made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to. Workers want rights to earn their fair share.
He played by the rules. That's why he gave his son immunity. He was playing by the rules. The wealthy will always be okay.
You know, they were dealt into the deal, and it helped put us on a path to building the largest middle class and the most prosperous century any nation in the world has ever seen. We've got to do that again. In the last 4 years, that is exactly what we've done. People should be able to make as much as they can, but play by the same rules, pay their fair share of taxes.
Richard gets richer.
So much is at stake. Right now, the existential threat of climate change has never been clearer. Just look across the country, from California to North Carolina. That's why I signed the most significant climate and clean energy law ever in the history of the world. And the rest of the world is trying to model it now. It's working, creating jobs and industries of the future. Now, we've proven we don't have to choose between protecting the environment and growing the economy. We're doing both. But powerful forces want to wield their unchecked influence to eliminate the steps we've taken to tackle the climate crisis, to serve their own interest for power and profit. We must not be bullied into sacrificing the future of our children and our grandchildren. We must keep pushing forward and push faster. There's no time to waste. It's also clear that American leadership in technology is an unparalleled source of innovation that can transform lives. We see the same dangers of the concentration of technology, power, and wealth. You know, his farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable.
So, what are we going to do? Because Biden, you had 4 years to do these things, and you ran your whole campaign off of this social media platform that's spreading lies and propaganda. So, this is crazy. Well, hopefully you guys can go and finish up. It's on CNN. I will drop the link to this farewell speech in the in the um, in the comments and part down there, so you guys, the transcript part, so you guys can actually pull it up and go watch the rest for yourself. But he goes on to pretty much talk about taxing the rich. Um, a lot of these things, I can't sit here and explain it to you, but a lot of these things will be something that everybody needs to do their thorough research about. They're all under the same umbrella, Republicans, Democrat, they're all the same. One just starts with a D and the other starts with an R. They're all the same game. And they all have certain ways that they want to move by doing things. But I will say this to people: give them a shot. Starting January the 20th, next Monday, we will have a new president. Give the team a shot. That's all I say. Give people a fair shot. Regardless how you feel about things, regardless about race, things of that nature, just give everybody a fair shot. And if things come up within this next year or two, address those things. Don't sit around and wait for the next presidential race to then want to bash everything that you've seen happen for 4 years. Break down each issue as you see it so that the world can see it. Because with because one thing he said that is actually very good is that people don't have to fact check. And that's what the world's doing now. Everybody's kind of going off of what they hear and no one's fact checking. And I will highly encourage everyone to fact check yourself as you move forward. See how things impact you. Look at your local districts first. Make sure you're voting local first, then vote up. Because most of the things that you're going to impact us, the true middle class people, are going to be things that happen local. Presidential stuff really don't touch too much of us unless you are a millionaire, billionaire, or you know what I mean, you just in the right seat at the right time. With that being said, I highly encourage everybody to watch this interview full out, watch the farewell address full out, watch the inauguration on Monday. Start this new year off in 2025 educating yourself. Go read Project 2025. Go read all that stuff. Like, go ahead and get yourself educated on what's going on so that you can make wise decisions moving forward for your local and presidential elections. Because I'm telling y'all, years go fast. Before you know it, JD Vance and whoever else will be running in the next 4 years. So just be ready. I definitely didn't vote for Harris, so so her not being in there doesn't bother me. My biggest thing is just, go out here and really educate yourself, man. And like I always tell you, God loves you, which is most importantly. I love you. You're beautiful, and your boy's out. There you go.